everybody. I'm going to start the presentation. Maybe we have more people coming in because we already had 33 signups for the RoostCon. Some people have said that they cannot attend tonight, so we're trying to recording it so they can see it also back. And some of the volunteers are experienced, so have seen these presentations many times before and also have done the RoostCon. For that reason, they're not attending today. Still, I wanted to do an introductory meeting so that we can get to know each other, especially for you guys to get to know my colleague Charlotte, which will be the one really helping me from now forward to put everybody to a roost, assign everybody a roost, and also will be the contact person through the emails. So I'm gonna do the presentation for the roost count coming up next weekend, 27th of July. And the roost count team really is me, Julianka, the director of ECHO, together with Charlotte Pont, which is now volunteering for nest monitoring, but really enjoys data analysis. So that's why also she's helping me with the roost count. And Shantali Coffee said she will be late, but will also be at the roost count day, really preparing a nice breakfast and everything for everybody that is helping us out, estimating the population of the yellow-shouldered Amazon parrots. Why we do roost count? I want to stop, especially to this question, as we have been doing roost count on Bonaire since 1980s. You can see in this graph, but before the years 2005, it was not done yearly. At some point, to get like good data that you can analyze, you need to be sequentially doing things. So in 2005, we started on Bonaire to do our annual roost count in January. That is happening on the last Saturday of January. It's also something that we're deliberating if we need to continue on the last Saturday of January. The reason is we have been seeing a deflect really from November to January, as you have the fireworks and everything. For example, a roost in Hato, in between of the fireworks timing. So on 2 of January is the time that the roost will start growing back. While in November, we see 400 birds there. It's just like around the fireworks. They leave to other places. And when in the fireworks stop, they will start coming back. But then you don't have, like, I think, the best counts there. And we don't know where they are moving to. So we have also tried last year to do monthly counts. So we have done count in October, November, December, and January, both doing at dusk. So when they are coming in, which is pretty hard for you to count them because they're coming in small groups and doing more like flying within the roost. So we believe in the morning counts, although people need to wake up pretty early to do them. We believe that that is the best time to take this data. And we started in 2020 really more to celebrate ECHO 10th anniversary to do this July count. But we're seeing the need to really continue getting the data in July is because we're getting more reports of people saying the parrots are more active around my house. They're staying and they're sleeping there. They're not only coming to eat. How we do roost counts is that we're using the same rules that we have known since the beginning of the counts, which are mostly in the park, but also in the northern part of the area. And in the latest year, as we have got more reports, we are putting in new rules. We cannot say with just one time counting at this place that, oh, they're sleeping here. But now we have, for example, in Kaya Mandoling, that we're doing for the 5th year, and we only see the parrots in July, and in January, we go there, you don't see any parrots. So that is a case of proving that the parrots are trying to survive and moving into habitat area during July, which is the dry season, but it's also the breeding season. So that brings extra question for researchers. For example, if we have more data of July, maybe we can compare and see how many of the birds are really breeding. Because if we're going to this roost and see that a portion of it, and in July, is not active around there, It might also say of something about their breeding, how you say, habit. And during this time, so that Charlotte is also trying to do this nest monitoring, going out and check how successful the parrots are breeding. It's not easy to access all nests. We can see if they're active, but you cannot see directly in them. So the more data we can get to kind of, see what percentage of the yellow-shouldered Amazon population is breeding, that is also good for us to know. So this trends show that it's going better with the minimum population of the parrots. No problem. You are more than welcome. I just introduced myself and my colleague Charlotte, and started to say why we do the roost counts. Yeah. So take a seat. You can see the trending line going up, although the dots will show the numbers that we really got through the years. Since the last 5 years, we're counting around the 1800s and more, depending on the morning itself, rain, but as I say, the fireworks and everything, you have years that is really dropping, but the overall is seeing the trends going up. Yes. And we try to do this roost count because we believe that the best way to estimate the minimum of the population is to go at places that we know that there really are and do it simultaneously so that we know that we're not counting the same parrots in the morning at those posts and then by noon that they are in town eating from people's papaya, then we're spotting them again. So we're doing a LoRa roost count. What is a LoRa? The beautiful Bonarian birds, I always say. But the Latin name is Amazona barbandensis. For the Bonarian endemic ones, we also say Rothschildi. So Amazona barbandensis, Rothschildi. In English, we refer to them as yellow-shouldered Amazon parrot, although it's pretty minimum what they have as yellow on the shoulders. The color of the parrots, green, yellow, red, and blue, which you can only see when they are close by, flying towards you. It's bigger than the Prikichi, 36 centimeter, and they really nest in cliffs or old trees. They're not making their own nest. They like to eat fruits, vegetables, and all kind of seeds. They are social monogamous, meaning that they stay in groups and really attached to kind of rhythm to the day also. So if you find them in your garden at night, most of the time it's every morning that you can find them at the same spot. And they roost in big flocks. So normally you won't find them just like 3 or 4 sleeping at night, but bigger groups of 16 up to 400, for example, in trees at Fontaine. So to do roost count, we're trying to count parrots. And this is a photo, which we hope that roost counts were just from photos will be easier. But in the morning of the roost count, it can happen that you have a big flock and it's in motion. So I'm just putting this for you to try to visualize what can happen in the morning. We didn't do pre-roost yet, so we are not much aware of how many parrots you can see in the area at this moment. We can only tell you kind of what we have seen in January or last year. So, but the question is, how many parrots do you think we have here? Anybody have tried to?
71.
71? Yes. No, it's so to count parrots, really in motion, we are giving the tip to try to group them. Because if they're in motion, it will be hard just to pitch them like that. But if you group here, kind of you have 5, or yeah, it's hard. But here you have 5. There's another group of 5. That is the best way to go on with it, and it's around the 70 birds that we have here. So for people counting, many times they say, how will I know that I'm not counting Prikichi? So the Prikichi and the parrots is not normal for them to roost together. But there are some differences, and the best for the morning will be the sun. And then it gets difficult because the prikichis have like a high pitch squeaking, and then the parrots have more a throaty call with a whistle note. But the places that we sent you, if you do hear any bird screaming, it's mostly the parrots because it's known for places where parrots have been roosting in groups around there. Yeah. And if you need like more detail into the differences, we can send you a video later of prikichis and like parrots of Bonaire, which are the prikichis and the parrots for you to get to know like really the differences. But in the morning, if you see group of birds, mostly is the parrots, and if you hear prikichis, that is nice, but we want to just note it aside because we're trying to estimate the population of the loras and not the prikichis. Why do the loras matter and why we're trying to count them and not the prikichis is also a question I have been asked before. The loras, they used to be vulnerable on the list of on the IUCN list, but now they are marked near threatened. That means that because the population have been growing and they have done like a how do you say herziening?
Recovery.
Sorry?
Recovery.
Recovery, yes. And the IUCN since 2022, 21, have changed so the designation to be near threatened, meaning that these counts help in some ways because these data that we share and the population growing helps also for the worldwide population. But this means that only between 1,600 and 6,500 parrots are counted worldwide. In Bonaire, we do these roost counts and also in the coast of Venezuela, in Isla Margarita. But on the mainland of Venezuela, for example, they're saying they do have the yellow-shouldered Amazon parrots, but there's no research happening, so we don't know the population over there. So being endemic to Bonaire and in the coast of Venezuela, for us, it's very important to do conservation of the yellow-shouldered Amazon parrots on Bonaire. And we also work now with Profita, which is doing it on the Isla Margarita and trying to start also doing conservation, so nest monitoring on and roost count on Isla Blanquilla. We know that the population in Venezuela is decreasing primarily due to poaching because there they do the nest monitoring actively, like sleeping at the nest because every bird is being poached out to be captive as pet. On Bonaire, that is regulated better now. I'm not saying it's not happening. Poaching is still happening, but not in big scale as it was happening in 2010 to 2012, where we had like hundreds of birds coming in rescued by the Coast Guard and police. So the population on Bonaire, due to all the efforts of ECHO, is now also stable, but we see that the effects of habitat loss due to development, but also just the grazers is really the, how you say, is affecting the population on Bonaire. We see, for example, nest victories where parrots have been nesting that, yeah, they're just falling down, and also we don't have nature like regulating itself in a way that we have trees coming that can supply the birds a place to nest. And then, as I say before, in the last 5 years, we have been starting getting counts around the 2,000 birds here on Bonaire. And also it's important to notice that Aruba just started this January to do a reintroduction project. So they're trying there in Aruba where the birds went extinct in 1952. They're trying now to reintroduce birds after getting a confiscation of 25 birds. They have reintroduced 19 of them, and they are we're trying so as ECHO to work together with them for if we have birds that need to be released, that hopefully they can come from within the region and go to Aruba. So that is why the LoRa's really matters, because we still have them on Bonaire. We would like to have a stable population and even in conservation ways help our sister islands who also want to reintroduce them. So we're gonna talk about the official roost size that we have, because maybe you will say, yeah, I've seen them sleeping at some places. It's good for us to know them, but we're trying to use the roost size that we have been using for years. So in the Washington Slagbaai National Park, we have 9 roosts. We are thinking of skipping those this July. The reason is we don't have enough volunteers till this moment. The roads in the park are pretty bad, so you can only go with a 4-wheel drive. And you should start earlier than the rest, because you should be there at 5 for you to be at your roost count at 6. And the July count for us is what we're the how you say, the reason for us to continue this July count is to really see how many parrots are sleeping in the habitat area. So for us, nice and perfect if they're active in the park, because there is the place that they're supposed to be. But we're also trying to answer the question of, okay, how active they are in habitat area and what are the difference there. So we're trying to count more around Dos Pos, Rincon, Fontaine, Cerro Largo, Sabadeco, and also we have a roost in Belnem. Everybody will get directions from us, which here I have an example of the directions. So really explaining from Kralendijk how you should get to the viewpoint really, so you can overlook your roost. Next to the description, we also have some photos, like image where the trail starts, a map, and this photo is the important one. The photo will show you, okay, if you are at your viewpoint, where is your roost, so where they are supposed to sleep. This is one in Fontaine, where we have 2 viewpoints really, because normally it's a big roost that we're trying to overlook. When you get your direction, which tonight we're trying to choose the roost, and then tomorrow we can send all directions to everybody. If you still have question about it, you can WhatsApp at the ECHO number for question about your specific roost. We would like for you to try to visit it before Thursday, because if something happens, we can still like come up with a solution on Friday, so everybody can join us on the morning and really simultaneously try to estimate the population. I think I was trying to say this already. Pre-roost check is very helpful. It's nice because you can confirm your direction. You can clear trails, because we have not done a pre-roost check. Trails might be a bit close, not really much, because the last time that we did it was 6 months ago, and between then and now there was not much rain, but sometimes the trails close. So it's good if you're doing a pre-roost check to bring any clippers so that you can clear the trail a bit. So on the morning, it's more free for you to walk. It's also useful during the day to do these checks, because then you can get to know the area, which you will need to access on an early morning in dusk. You can train if you go on a 6 a.m. morning. And it's also good to check the activity around these known sites. So if you do the training, you might see, so that you went on Thursday and you saw 40, and then maybe Saturday that we're counting is only 20. That sometimes happens because they change. My personal experience 2 weeks ago, I was at Paramira, where my mother lived, and it was 10 p.m. I heard a flock flying off, and that same roost was done by board members before, and they were like, we didn't saw many parrots there. And I was I couldn't believe, because the night before I was also at my parents and I heard a lot of birds. So I say, it's gonna be a great count for Paramira. And the next morning there were only 50, which I thought I heard more. And so they explained to me in the neighborhood that it's now very common, 10 p.m. or 2 a.m. for the flock to fly off, which I believe first that, okay, if they go to sleep, they're really sleeping and you're gonna see all of them in the morning. No, so Also during the night, they are active and they will fly off, but it's very important if we count simultaneously, that is what we have seen in the morning, even if it's zero, if it's a lot, we have done this effort together to try to estimate the population. Yeah. I think with this photo, I'm trying to make clear again that the activity might start before sunrise. So you might be there at 6 and sunrise is just 6:20. And you might start hearing them squawking before even you can see much. That is also good data. So for you to be there and mark the time that you start like just observing the area is good. And maybe you cannot count, but in the comments you can put down like, oh, I've heard a lot before I was able to count. Then we just know what is happening in the area. I think everybody that is counting together this time already know their body, but if maybe we are setting you up with somebody else because we're trying to at least have two people, so one that can count and the other that can make the notes, we will CC you in the emails together so you have each other's contact. Counting together is also counting together sometimes mean that you're there and your partner may not be there. So then you're alone at 6 and we want you to start at 6. So you're doing both the tasks by yourself by that time. But hopefully everybody can get at their places before 6. If you're at the roost side and your partner does not get there, please start by 6. Don't wait longer. And we're asking for you to stay at the roost side till you see all the LoRa's fly away. We're trying to do this community science between 6 and 8 a.m. because we know by 8 there's a lot already happening. So parrots are starting to fly from other roosts into your roost. But it might happen that you're at a place that by 6:45, from hearing a lot of parrots, there's no sound. So then you know for sure, okay, there's no parrots around, and by that time you can also leave. On the data sheet that I'm also gonna walk you through in a bit, there's small notes to take about the weather, because if it's raining, the parrots might stay in and just quacking, not leaving. Those are good data also for you to note for us. And also keep in mind that it can happen that you go to a place where there's 0 parrots. That is also interesting data. For example, as I told you from the mandolin in Terraquara, the Kaya mandolin, in January it's 0. By July, it's around 50 to 75. So even seeing 0 is an important observation for us. Okay, we have a detailed data sheet, which you're also gonna get in email if somebody cannot print it. I have some printed out tonight. But the data sheet will walk you to the direction of how to fill, or at least you have a description on how to fill this. I've split it up so we can talk a bit about it. So you have a roost site. That is a specific tree or that the LoRa sleep in. But the roost area is more kind of, if you're on the cliff, you see a total area, and sometimes they don't sleep in the tree that we know, but just want a side of it. And often the observation point is like 30 meters, or in the park is even 200 meters from the actual roost area. So what we're trying to get on our data sheet is the coordinates of your observation point, and that you can get just by even do a photo with the GPS on, or just by your phone, you can get the GPS of the place that you was observing. So your observation point. That help us because we can track it back with people who have done observations before there. If you're happy to also estimate, like how far do you think you are from the roost, that is also helpful. And it's very important, this part, to get your name, because maybe you brought somebody else or you went alone. It's good to have the names of the observers, because if we happen to have a question later, we can check by the name, okay, who did this, and we can haunt you a bit.
More for data purposes, so in the future, if it gets used, we know how many volunteers we're not gonna have.
It's good to also mark if it's your first time in experience, or if you say, oh, it's my second time, very experienced. And if you have done it more than 2 times, you're experienced to us. Yeah. The start time is when you get there and you're ready to start observing. It's good to bring something with you, like your coffee, your cousin, everything that you want to make yourself more relaxed to do the observation. But when you're ready to start, like really observing, it's good to start it. Note the start time of observation. And before you leave, then mark the end time of observation, which for some people might be around 7 o'clock and for others at 8 o'clock in the morning. So when doing the observation, we have some keynotes that we use. In the first column, we want the time. So somebody is trying to keep the time of the observations. The numbers of parrots that you have seen, and we want to know especially the ones leaving. So the L's are very important for us because that means that they are waking up, squawking, and leaving the roost area. The flying within is because they're staying. And if it happened that it's raining or it's 8 o'clock and they're still in the area, it's important to know the flying within. Every bird that is just doing a circle around the roosting area and not leaving. Flying into the area might also happen, especially in the area of those post-Ketedal. We see it sometimes that birds that are flying from a roost closer to Gotomer, flying into Rincon. They are not coming from the roost area of those posts, but you just see them coming into your area and continue their way. Sorry, and coming in the flock. Those are flying within, which brings kind of a question marks to our data because they were not in a roost, and it might happen that somebody else already counted them and then they fly in. And flying over is what I was trying to explain, when they are completely just passing by your area, which is something easy for us to left them behind. What those numbers help with is sometimes that you can track, okay, if they were flying over those posts, maybe they came from Ketedal. From having the timing, the number, you can track, okay, are those flying overs some birds that came from another roost or not? Those are for a more deep analysis later when we're doing the data analysis. And the directions, which also is good for you to maybe use compass on your phone to get the direction when you're seated there. And if you can know the directions, we're happy with that. If it's too much, these three are pretty important for us. And if you know the direction, it only helps for us to go deeper in analyzing the data. Yeah. Okay, for me not to miss, I'm missing a part of the data sheet. At the end of the data sheet, there's some extra place for remarks. And also we want to know how will you classify your count. If you were kind of guessing it a bit, if it's a big flock and they all flew together, you can put that is more a rough estimate. But if it was just a small group or they were flying in smaller groups, sorry, because most of the time is an optimal count. So those are also just for you to fill in how you felt that you have done it. And the local weather is also important because sometimes it's rain in Fontaine and not at those posts. So it's good for us to know all of that. Sorry, I'm gonna take some water. Do you think this is gonna play?
Mhm.
Okay, I already addressed this part. Oh, most important is the LoRa's counted. So you can do it at your observation point, but you can also bring your data sheet at those posts and together with Charlotte, go over what you had. It's very important to count all the parrots leaving. And by the end of all the parrots that left, if there's still some flying within, those are also being accumulated as part of the roughly estimate of that roost. But if not, the leavings are the total of your counted parrots at the roost site. Yes, we need your data sheet as soon as possible. What we would really like to do is at least give a preliminary result. Then in a week, 10 days, Charlotte will try to analyze all the data to really have like, okay, the final result of the count. And we can only do that if people are bringing the data sheet or sending an email to us. If it happens the same day, nice, because we can
Very nice.
we can communicate right away about it. And if not, by Monday, the latest, we would like to have everything so then we can communicate with all the volunteers, but also with the media about the result of our roost count. So check if you filled everything in the form. If you bring it to Echo, we can double check that. But if you cannot bring it to Echo, you can also email a photo of your data sheet and a photo of your observation point to echobonaire@gmail.com. The team will be at Echo, where we will host a thank you breakfast till 10 a.m. So from 8 to 10, we have a breakfast for everybody who helped count it, and we will receive any data sheet. And as we're asking everybody to make a picture, if you make a film of the area, we will need to get an email back from you with this photo or video that you made at the echobonaire@gmail.com. I think for some reason when we get out, maybe I can make it work. So the day of the next count is upcoming Saturday, 27th of July. We shall be there at 6 a.m. Leave around 8. It's very important to visit it by daylight and let us know if you found it or not. We recommend to wear dark clothes just because some of the roosts are pretty close to also the observation point. We try to not make it obvious that we're counting that morning, but mingle in nature. And also make sure that you bring everything, like the data sheet. If you cannot print it, you might be also able to just fill it in from your phone or iPad. But it's important to bring like a powerful torch or anything that is also on your description. If you're going on cliff sides, we sometimes put like extra things that you can bring, like a cushion or anything to be comfortable when observing. And here is just a repetition of everything that I say. Add up the total because we want you guys doing the counts also to give us a total. We can double check that and take a picture of your observation, preferably at the end of counting, because that is full daylight and we can see, okay, where you have been. Okay, for the upcoming roost count, on the day itself, you might have some question like, oh, I don't know what the question might be, but we had a year that we had a car accident right at the entrance of Rincon and people couldn't go in. So then I was phoned at 5:30, like, oh, we cannot drive. What is the best way to take to get to our roost point? We decided that day to just do it a week after, again, because there was no way for the people who didn't start coming from the Queens Road to entrance Rincon. But so things might happen, and on the morning you might have some questions. You cannot phone us that morning, it will be hard, but you can send a WhatsApp. So that's why we're saying try to do the pre-roost check your area, and then if anything happened on the morning, you can WhatsApp either to the Echo phone number, and the other number, the international number, is Charlotte's number, which can also help you because she has been in contact with you, so by email. And if you send an email, then we're seeing it after 8. So try to WhatsApp. We can answer from 5 a.m. on. I'm saying for both of us because she's used to the early mornings and me too. So it's no problem if you have questions on the morning itself.